Alright everyone, time to take a look at the next episode that I'm going to be looking at today, which is Invasive Procedures. The crew of Deep Space Nine evacuates to avoid an impending plasma storm, leaving a skeleton crew. Jadzia Dex has the crew of the USS Orinoco ready at landing pad C in case of emergencies. Miles O'Brien and Odo are checking the station and are at the docking ring. A loud bang reveals Quark hiding in one of the airlocks. He goes back to his bar, but they don't see a device on the wall beeping as they leave. While monitoring the storm and securing the station, the crew receives a stress call claiming to be from a cargo ship called Akina. O'Brien and Odo go down to meet them, but the crew is hostile. A Timotro named Verdad and his crew, a pair of Klingon mercenaries, Takar and Yedo, and former partners to Mariel, surprise them. Takar directs a takeover, forcing Odo into a locked box, and capturing O'Brien and Dr. Bashir, but not before forcing Bashir to put the box in stasis in the infirmary. The group then goes to Ops and captures the rest of the crew. In the corner, O'Brien realizes Quark probably had a hand in getting them around the security measures and notes this to Cisco. Yedo goes to Quark's bar and makes it clear that he's not going according to the plan Quark understood, a business transaction, and brings him to Ops under guard. There, Verdad, again timidly, states he wants the Dax symbiote. Why? Verdad explains he is bitter because he applied to be joined and was rejected after a lifetime of preparation and sacrifice when the Symbiosis Evaluation Board declared him unsuitable for joining. He targeted the Dax symbiote specifically as it is most compatible for him, and furthermore plans to escape to the Gamma Quadrant to start a new life. Bashir attempts to refuse to perform the procedure, but Verdad shoots O'Brien at his right shoulder, making it clear he will hurt everyone there if he does not get what he wants. He allows Bashir to tend to O'Brien briefly, and Jadzia submits in order to prevent further harm, even though she knows removing the symbiote will kill her within a few hours. Yedo then escorts him to the infirmary, leaving Mariel and Takar. Verdad forces Bashir to transfer the symbiote into his body while he is awake. He uses a neuroelectrical suppressor and demands a monitor to watch the procedure. Bashir reluctantly puts Jadzia to sleep, asking for forgiveness. Yedo watches as Bashir performs the operation successfully, asking forgiveness from Jadzia. In Ops, the crew waits and has a quiet conversation. Demanding silence, Takar starts a scuffle and O'Brien is attacked. Mariel subdues Kira and gets the upper hand with the phaser. Later, Kira gets Mariel to talk. She informs them she knew Verdad a long time back when he was a communications clerk at the Federation Consulate on Kefa 4, and he helped her out of a bad situation, and that she loves him. She doesn't believe Cisco's point that a joined trail becomes an entirely different person than before, and that she will lose him. At that point, Verdad Dax appears, completely calm and confident. Bashir has Yedo act as a nurse as he tries to save Jadzia's life. Yedo resists, trying to get a raise out of Bashir, but does eventually help him. She wakes up feeling very alone. He promises to save her, and tells her to rest. Meanwhile, Cisco tries to coax his old friend. Verdad now has the memories of both Jadzia and Curse on Dax into setting things right. First by recalling memories going back to when they first met at Paleo Station, but eventually mentioning the discovery of the Bajoran wormhole, one of Jadzia's memories. This gives him pause, but he says it's too late, that the integration is already happening and that the symbiote is too weak to undergo the procedure again. Then justified by saying he wants to benefit many worlds in the Gamma Quadrant with its knowledge and experience, including Jadzia's memories. Mariel questions why Verdad is entertaining the conversation at all and gets a snap retort from Verdad. She begins to realize how much he has changed, but continues to remain loyal to him. Cisco realizes that Verdad intends to let Jadzia die, and ends their friendship abruptly. This affects Verdad. Verdad's group waits the storm for safe passage to the wormhole. Meanwhile, Mariel attempts to give O'Brien a Cenarian egg broth to help him with his strength, which he reluctantly accepts. Mariel looks up to Verdad, who was thinking alone in Cisco's office. And Cisco again tries to convince her he's changed more than she realizes. She stays loyal, but the talk gets heated. Seeing this, Verdad comes out from Cisco's office, but she assures him everything is fine. Just then, Quark attacks Takar, who pretends to be injured, so he's taken to the infirmary. Fred orders Mariel to take him down. There, Quark squeals a single Bashir to run some further tests. Rayl leaves Yudo alone with him and Bashir, giving the two their opportunity. Bashir knocks him out with hypo spray, then removes the container Odo is in from the medical base stasis field. Bashir does not see how the container can be opened without the access code, but Quark identifies its Delgorian locking mechanism, which he manages to crack using his superior hearing and a bit of impromptu surgery on one of Bashir's laser scalpels. Muriel goes to Vrad and they plan their escape. Vrad wants to ensure she is safe, however, when Muriel mentions them being together, he is reluctant to reciprocate. Now, Muriel is doubtful. Once Vrad realizes that Yudo is subdued, he guesses that Odo is free and immediately heads for a ship with Dakar. He takes Kira as a hostage just in case. Muriel wishes him luck, staying behind in ops. Vrad bids Sisko farewell, wishing they could stay friends, but Sisko promises him they'll be seeing each other again. This stuns Vrad a bit, but he leaves. Sisko goes to Muriel again, asking about the rendezvous since he knows it will never happen. She's not convinced Vrad lied to her about the rendezvous, which he has never done, and finally accepts that the new Vrad is no longer the man she loves. Sisko promises that he will save both Vrad and Jadzia by removing the symbiote from one and replacing it in the other. Muriel learns and surrenders her phaser and comm badge, but promises to kill Sisko if Vrad is not brought back alive. He believes her. By the time Vrad reaches the ship, Odo has released the docking clamps, leaving him stranded. Vrad runs when he sees Odo, leaving Dakar to be overpowered by both Odo and Kira. Vrad heads for a different runabout in a neighboring airlock, runs into Sisko and the two have a standoff. But when Sisko will not shoot his old friend in fear of harming the symbiote, Vrad begins to walk away. Sisko shoots him with his phaser anyway, declaring, "Don't call me Benjamin." Fortunately, Bashir successfully versus the symbiote's host, and Vrad wakes up without it. He is very shaken up, despite Muriel's devotion and her promise that she will never leave his side. Meanwhile, Jadzia wakes up on the next table and gratefully embraces Sisko. She confides that symbiote's brief contact with Vrad has given her his memories, and it's all so sad. Even though the procedure has been reversed, Vrad is now part of the Dax symbiote forever. Oh. So anyway, let's take a look at some background information, beginning with the story and script. Robert Hewitt Wolf says that this show was created because the producers wanted to convey to the audience they had done not every single Trill was joined, that it was extremely difficult to get a symbiote. This, in turn, offered a commentary on the Jadzia character insofar as she was someone who did become joined. Now let's take a look at the production side of things. The symbiote scene in this episode is significantly different from that scene in the TNG episode The Host. As makeup supervisor Michael Westmore explains, the original idea was based upon a center pillar with an octopus's head. But for a second appearance in DS9, the first was in the pilot Emissary, the design was streamlined. On the scene featuring the Trill symbiote, David Livingston commented, quote, "We didn't want it to look cheesy. It was always a problem showing it. It's that whole idea of alien. You don't want to see it too much because the audience is either going to be repulsed by it or say it's too hokey." During filming, Tim Russ accidentally punched Patricia Tallman, who was still playing Nana Visitor, in the face during a fight sequence. Tallman noted that, quote, "Everyone on set was freaked out, but I said, 'No, don't stop. That was really good. It looked very authentic.' So we finished the fight there and then." And now let's take a look at some continuity surrounding this episode. The third season episode, Equilibrium, explains the highly selective and inclusive process of joining. It is explained that if the widespread compatibility of most Trill with symbiotes was known, violent attempts at joining such as Vrad's would be far more common. Oh, that's interesting. So now finally on to some trivia surrounding this episode. This is the second episode in a row after the siege where most of the crew is evacuated from the station, while Quark is left behind and Rom receives passage. Craig Lofton, who plays Jake Sisko, does not appear in this episode. Tim Russ makes his second Star Trek appearance in this episode. The first was at TNG Starship Mine. His next appearance outside Star Trek Voyager was as a lieutenant aboard the USS Enterprise in Star Trek Generations. He returned to DS9 to play the Mirror Universe of Tuvok in Through the Looking Glass the following year. That's interesting. So I think this is a pretty okay episode, and yeah, let's just say that I'm happy that that Jadzia got the Dex symbiote back. So yeah. So overall, I give the episode Invasive Procedures 3 warp cores out of 5. When I tune in more as we take a look at the next episode, Cardassians. So until then, live long and prosper, everybody.